Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Tuesday, July 29th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Behind the Arcade Mission in downtown London, a shaded patio and makeshift misting system are offering critical relief from the heat.
And it keeps you cool, and they give us shade. There's no other shade in the city except for trees. And without it, I don't think a lot of people would survive, to tell you the truth.
The mist may seem simple, but for those without access to air conditioning or shelter, it can be life-saving.
During heat alerts, we add an outreach team to make sure that people get water, freezies, some service outside, a bus ticket if they can get onto an air-conditioned bus. We know that that can help.
Campbell says Arcade is only funded for 4 hours of service per day, but they are operating 8 hours Monday through to Friday and 12 hours on the weekend to meet the growing demand.
Finding a place to cool down is actually harder than finding a place to warm up. And so, much like our winter planning, we look to find ways to get people indoors, give them an opportunity to rest, make sure that they have proper nourishment. We are working with our partners to make sure there's an everyday location for lunch and dinner and breakfast, and we really try to just take those basic needs one by one, having a shower, having access to running water, a bathroom.
As temperatures climb above 30 degrees with humidex values pushing into the 40s, Environment Canada has extended the heat warning through Tuesday. The Middlesex London Health Unit says the combination of high daytime temperatures and warm, humid nights pose a serious risk.
We start with symptoms such as sweating, just some general fatigue and cramps and stuff like that. And then it could lead to some more significant symptoms, which can be heat stroke, which is a medical emergency.
Health officials are urging people to take it easy, stay hydrated, and check in on vulnerable neighbors.
You want to make sure that you check on family and friends, particularly folks that are elderly and may not have air conditioning, because the indoor heat can be a significant concern too.
Environment Canada says the hottest conditions are expected Monday, with a break in the weather likely by Wednesday. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
Politicians and industry leaders are up in arms over the decision to raise anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood.
Just to be clear, from the Government of New Brunswick perspective, that these increase in tariffs and countervailing duties are unwarranted, unfair.
The New Brunswick lumber producers say they are deeply troubled by the decision to increase the duties by over 14%. Increasing anti-dumping duties to 20.56% from the current average rate of 7.66% is unjustified. New Brunswick's softwood lumber producers already face punitive and unfair anti-dumping and countervailing duties. 28,000 New Brunswickers earn their living directly from the forests.
Whenever anybody in the supply chain hears about duties and tariffs or any other fees, they get very anxious about those fees being imposed on them in the form of lower wood prices and possibly making their operation not viable anymore.
The British Columbia Lumber Organization has condemned the decision, calling the duties unjustified and punitive.
We know here in Canada over the last number of weeks and months that Donald Trump is doing everything in his power to destroy our economy.
Ironically, John Herron believes Canada may actually be better positioned to negotiate a softwood lumber deal now than it has been in the past.
Minister LeBlanc, who's leading the trade discussions with the Americans on all commodities, now has softwood lumber on the top sheet.
Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Johan, a high-risk repeat sex offender, was arrested again last week on new charges. Guelph police say they were called over safety concerns when a member of the public spotted him downtown.
This person that he'd had a previous interaction with about a year prior called and indicated that he was downtown and was close to that person's workplace and caused concerns for safety. So officers did investigate and were able to confirm that his presence there.
Recently installed cameras in the downtown core helped police lay the new charges.
Officers were able to look back on the camera footage and confirm his attendance in a place that he shouldn't have been in circumstances that gave rise to a criminal harassment charge.
Police say Johans is considered a high risk to reoffend. He has a history of violence, including at least 2 sexual assaults involving strangers. Looking back at his offenses over the last year, Johans was released from custody in Toronto in July of 2024. In August of that year, rearrested by Guelph Police Service for breach of conditions. On March 1st, released from custody, with Guelph Police issuing a warning to the public. A week later, he was rearrested by Guelph Police for breach of conditions. The next day, he was released on bail. Less than 24 hours later, he was located sleeping on a bench at the University of Guelph, and later that morning, rearrested for breaching a court order. On July 24th, he was released on bail, with Guelph Police issuing another warning to the public. And just 24 hours after that, arrested on new charges of criminal harassment and a breach of court orders.
I can't imagine what it's like to be a police officer in Toronto, Kitchener, Hamilton, anywhere throughout the GTA or more populated areas in Ontario where you arrest them and 10 minutes later or 6 months later, they're out on serious charges. And we're not even talking about a Canadian citizen. We're talking about somebody who should think it's a privilege to be here.
Monday morning, Johans refused to attend bail court. Goldkind says there are procedures in place for these situations.
There's various mechanisms in the criminal code to, 1, force them to come, or 2, if forcing them to come isn't going to be done, to doing the trial in their absence if you can show that there's a good reason to proceed and they themselves are the ones causing the problem.
Johans is expected to attend bail court tomorrow in Guelph. Ashley Bacon, CTV News.
Canada's Prime Minister and the American President were both visiting islands and talking trade. Donald Trump in Scotland musing about baseline world tariffs.
I just want to be nice. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
The negotiations are at an intense phase. It's a complex negotiation.
While on Prince Edward Island, Mark Carney repeated in French that a deal with no tariffs is unlikely.
We're standing up for Canada, Canadian interests. Of course, the United States is looking out, the President's looking out for the interests of American workers. There is a landing zone that's possible, but we have to get there.
There appears to be a backing away from the tariff for tariff, elbows up, sort of combative tone.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Peter MacKay feels we may not get the kind of deal we want.
Donald Trump has really had his way with many countries, and they are coming to heel and rolling around like kittens on a couch.
While Ontario's premier still hopes Canada is treated differently.
A tariff on Canadians is a tax on Americans. Prices will go up.
It's not the kind of recession-inducing shock that 25% on literally everything would have been.
This University of Calgary economist says a 15% baseline tariff on non-CUSMA compliant goods would still be a net negative for the Canadian economy. But it's important to focus on the bigger picture, what happens with CUSMA down the line.
That's a much more important potential shock to the economy than a 15% baseline with an exemption for trade agreement compliant exports.
Trump's trade deal deadline is Friday, with the Prime Minister saying Canada is still engaged in negotiations. Mark Carney stressing Canada is also already a big investor in the United States as we watch other countries sign deals that require major financial commitments. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Yasir Hosseini says he's been living with mold for months. It's behind the baseboards, in the bathroom, and even the bedroom.
I send them photographic evidence of mold in a specific spot in my apartment, but they say they cannot do anything right now.
In May, his unit was flagged as one of 57 affected by mold. Air quality tests later found elevated spore levels in some of those units and in common areas like the gym. At the time, the property management company told residents it was taking steps to fix the problem.
I was not contacted. And then what happened is that on July 23rd, we just received a notice about a mass eviction happening.
Dozens of tenants, many of them international students, living at this apartment building in Little Italy are now being told they'll likely have to vacate by the end of August.
For us, it's a 39-day notice period, right? And it's incredibly hard to find a decent place at a similar price at such short notice.
The building has been under court-ordered receivership since February after Ashcroft Homes Group ran into financial trouble. Now a buyer wants vacant possession by September 1st so they can remove the mold, a condition of the sale.
It did come as a shock to us because we got the impression that it was a relatively small issue that didn't require us to leave the building, vacate the building completely.
According to this letter sent last week to tenants, pending a court hearing Thursday, those who don't end their leases early could be removed by the sheriff, saying given the health risks associated with this work, no tenant can be permitted to remain at the property.
It is a rent control building, so they cannot increase more than 2.5%. For me personally, I would think that it is a case of re-eviction.
The court is also being asked to approve lease termination agreements, offering tenants 2 months' rent and the option to take furniture from their furnished units, but they'll have to give up the right to file future complaints. In a statement, the property manager says it recognizes this is a time of uncertainty for tenants and is committed to supporting them through the process, but declined further comment due to ongoing legal proceedings.
Now, this is all pending a court ruling. In the same letter, the general manager telling tenants formal written notice will be issued after the court's ruling, including specific dates and steps for leaving. Tenants are now organizing with the help of Acorn. The advocacy group says it'll be going door to door tonight to inform residents and help them fight the potential evictions.
For the second year in a row, car thefts are trending down in Canada. In Quebec, 3,889 vehicles were stolen in the first half of 2025. That's a 22% decline from the same time last year. The industry group that tracks insurance fraud and crimes attributes the decline to greater collaboration between federal and provincial governments and law enforcement, especially in Ontario and Quebec.
It started with the provinces, Ontario and Quebec, funding for law enforcement. Ontario stood up the provincial auto theft team, working very closely with Montreal Police and Sûreté at the Port of Montreal. That evolved into a federal action with the Public Safety Canada.
Equité says government efforts and funding to target car theft rings are having an effect. Thieves are changing their methods and not using the Port of Montreal as much as before to transport stolen vehicles.
Chop shops are on the rise, so they're stealing vehicles and then they're dismantling those vehicles and then selling them piece by piece, not only domestically but internationally, as well as revinning across the country.
Stealing cars is still a lucrative way to fund organized crime, and that's why it's important that the public remain vigilant and take steps to protect their vehicles.
Them all, but anything that you can do to slow them down or make it more difficult. If you have a garage, park in a garage, park in a well-lit area, make sure your vehicle is always locked and your windows are up, keys and key fob never left in the vehicle. Use an aftermarket immobilizer, use a tracking device, use a steering wheel lock, using a pedal lock.
Vehicle recovery rates are also on the rise, but the Insurance Bureau of Canada says rates aren't likely to drop anytime soon. They say tariffs on vehicles and replacement parts are keeping costs high. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
Construction is underway on not one, but 2 long-term care homes in Barrie.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that we are breaking ground on the brand new The Village of Innis Landing Barrie Long-Term Care Home.
Crews broke ground today at both the new Village of Innis Landing and Grove Park Home for Seniors. Innis Landing will be a full redevelopment of the Coleman Care Centre that will add 80 beds, bringing the total to 192. Grove Park is upgrading 62 beds for a total of 145, plus major renovations to improve care and comfort. All part of the provincial approach to building new space for seniors.
The government has invested close to $6.4 billion to build 58,000 new and upgraded long-term care beds. This is the largest building kind of its history in Canada.
When you're seeing population growth in the 25,000 people or 30,000 people over 4 years, but we aren't seeing the same number of long-term care beds until now, that's a concern. But when you see the investment that's taking place, it really does lend itself to a complete community.
Community hub, a community center, where we provide services to the elders, the seniors who live in the broader community. You don't necessarily sleep at the village at night, but can access the services of the village so they can stay living in their houses longer.
We employ over 220 people. It's a wonderful not-for-profit home, and we're super excited to be able to do this renovation, to do this redevelopment project, and contribute to seniors' care for many decades to come.
Now, we should tell you that both facilities will have all the bells and whistles once complete. The minister today mentioning more than once that both facilities will have air conditioning throughout, as we can all understand, Sarah, on days like today, why that would be important.
It was shocking to see the van. It was completely crushed.
Transcona's TSL was wondering what happened to her van after it was stolen by a tow truck on July 15th. Now she knows.
The roof was on the floor. It looked like someone had dropped a steel beam right down the middle of it.
Court documents are now revealing who is alleged to be behind the theft of her van and 8 others, all stolen by tow truck between July 2nd until 14th. The statement of claim filed by the Director of Criminal Property Forfeiture alleges Corey Finkarik, owner of Winnipeg Auto Recycling, and employees stole vehicles, damaged them, and then sold them for scrap, bringing in $40,000. Now, his assets, including 2 tow trucks, bank accounts, and real estate, are being seized. A person answering the phone at Winnipeg Auto Recycling declined an interview and would not give their name. Winnipeg police said Wednesday 2 people were arrested in the case. Jason Schritt's truck was stolen in the same way on July 11th. His truck was also demolished.
I asked him if I could come and identify my vehicle or anything like that, and he just said it was unidentifiable because it was crushed and scrapped.
For Sawa, the question of why keep lingering.
Just the frustration, why did this happen? And the sadness, because it was an awesome van. It was our van. And I didn't think that anyone else would want it, so.
Harrison Shin, CTV News, Winnipeg.
After a difficult month for the community, Beauval Mayor Rick LaLiberty is able to share some good news.
We're inviting people to come back home. Beauval has survived the fire. We're just happy we survived the fire, and but there are other communities that are still being threatened.
Community members with medical concerns remain evacuated until August 6th. LaLiberty says that military assistance arrived in the area Monday afternoon.
There's military personnel. We have people from Quebec. We have people from Ontario, Mexico, Australia, and it's an active fire base.
An update Monday afternoon says the SPSA is responding to 11 active evacuations. There have been 31 so far this year, well above the 5-year average of 2 evacuations. There are closures along Highway 165 near Beauval due to wildfire and smoke. The Provincial Highway Hotline says more sections of Highway 165 will be open Tuesday morning between 5 and 8 a.m. With several months of wildfire season to go, Environment Canada says it could end up being the smokiest year on record for Saskatchewan's major cities.
Prince Albert and Regina were already at our second smokiest year on record so far. Saskatoon is already 3rd smokiest year on record so far.
As of Monday afternoon, there remains active air quality advisories across much of central and southeast Saskatchewan. As of this afternoon, there are 59 wildfires in the province, 11 uncontained. There have been a total 404 wildfires in Saskatchewan this year. Jasmine Pelche, CTV News, Prince Albert.
Taking center stage at the Midwestern Legislative Conference in Saskatoon, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper addressed a room full of policymakers from 11 American states and 4 Canadian provinces, sharing personal stories about his time in politics, not mincing words about Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Like, Vladimir Putin is a real-life Bond villain. Like, he really is. He was very good at sizing up people's weaknesses and exploiting them and getting them to think he was on their side when he wasn't. I watched this over and over again with this guy.
But the main focus of his speech, Canada's tense relationship with the United States.
This government did actually ask me a few weeks ago my advice.
Harper revealing that Ottawa recently turned to him for guidance on how to handle escalating tensions with the United States.
My advice was, yes, on the economy, we've got to kind of get something short-term worked out with the Trump administration, but this really is a wake-up call for this country to truly diversify its trade export markets.
CTV News reached out to the federal government for comment about contacting Harper, but did not hear back by the time of broadcast. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe supports Harper's call for trade diversification, backing the idea of more international customers.
In addition to accessing the rest of the world, access Canadian markets as well. We might be a little bit contrary to public opinion. We think we should be increasing our trade with the United States of America as well, moving forward, but by producing more.
And the clock is ticking. Canada remains under the threat of a 35% tariff on exports unless a new trade deal can be reached by U.S. President Donald Trump's deadline of August 1st. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
RCMP are typically out in the community investigating things like shootings, but today there was a police scene right on their own property in the gated parking lots behind the Strathcona County RCMP detachment. Around 10:30 a.m., RCMP say officers saw a man with what appeared to be a gun walking around the parking lot. We're told the building was immediately put into lockdown. A confrontation occurred and officers opened fire, shooting the man. First aid was given and he was rushed to hospital by ambulance. A man who lives at the seniors' home across the street tells CTV News he heard 3 or 4 gunshots, then saw police surround a person on the ground. The detachment commander here says the situation is unnerving.
There's approximately 2.2 incidents of violence towards police every day, right? This is just very close to home, shall we say. But it is absolutely rare.
This is the 3rd shooting involving Alberta RCMP in the past 10 days. In mid-July, a man was shot and killed by police in Grand Prairie. Police say they attempted to pull him over for driving erratically. After driving off, he took out a gun during a confrontation with them. Yesterday, police shot and killed a man in Lac-La-Biche. RCMP said during a disturbance call, he attacked one of the officers with a knife before being shot. Alberta's police watchdog, the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, will be looking into the circumstances surrounding this shooting, as it does in any case where someone is injured or killed by law enforcement. Reporting from Sherwood Park, Nicole Weisberg, CTV News.
Work continues at the North Shore Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Well, I think it's absolutely critical we get on with it now.
Surrey City Councillor Linda Annis speaking out about her frustrations with the beleaguered project. Metro Vancouver board directors deciding in secret to pause an independent review over ballooning costs. The board citing ongoing litigation with the original contractor.
I was very disappointed to hear that this was done as a closed vote.
Annis is one of several councillors to voice concerns.
There isn't open and transparency, and it's the taxpayers' money that's being spent through all of this.
Initially projected to be completed in 2020 and cost $700 million. Now, the end date has been pushed back a decade, set to finish in 2030 and cost close to $3.9 billion.
There's absolutely no way a project of this magnitude should have such cost overruns without it coming to light way earlier.
Annis says she is calling on Premier David Eby to reverse this closed-door vote to suspend the review.
We're reviewing the decision of Metro Vancouver to delay doing a full review.
Eby says he's aware of the councillors' concerns and about the lawsuit.
If they were wronged by the contracting company, that they're able to recover in court and offset some of the losses that taxpayers and all of us are facing as a result.
Stopping short of ordering the review to continue, Eby says taxpayers deserve to know whether Metro Vancouver has the capacity to build major infrastructure projects. Back at Surrey City Hall, Annis has similar questions.
I'm deeply concerned that are the budgeted amounts correct?
We reached out to Metro Vancouver asking to speak with any of the directors. None were made available. Dimitri Marigo, CTV News, Vancouver.